Hi, I'm Paul Battaglia, and this is section 10.6, parametric equations. So we're introducing a new variable to students here, the variable t, which serves as a parameter. So I think we need a good way to motivate the lesson, and I'm joined by Gabe and Brittany. And Gabe, you have a really nice analogy that I like to give students.
Sure. So when introducing this lesson, there's a couple quick examples that I like to do with my students, and you can pick and choose as you would like.
Okay.
So first, you might want to consider placing a coordinate plane over a football field and asking students to maybe track how a football player might move through it.
Okay.
Or you could think about a hiker hiking along a trail.
Okay.
But an example that I really like to use is the example of a carnival game where you have a wooden board with pegs in it and you drop either a disc or a ball down it.
Okay.
And here we can actually start maybe talking about letting one side be a vertical axis and letting the bottom be a horizontal axis.
Okay.
So what I ask the students is, well, how would we describe how a ball or disc might move down this board? Well, what we start to see is, well, it really doesn't depend on where you're at on the board. Isn't telling you how you're moving.
Right.
So it sort of bounces around as it falls down. And how we really describe what's happening here is, well, the position, we could think about each point on the board being an XY coordinate, is really described by time. So what we really want to know is, well, where's the ball or disc at some time
5
t?
seconds into the game or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. And I think the natural place to move on from there would be then, okay, so if that's really what's happening now, how do I work with these equations? Because Brittany, what we see here is we have not just one equation we're dealing with, right? So how do you get your students to kind of work with that parameter?
So I like to tell my students, you can start with either X or Y, whichever one they feel more comfortable with.
Okay.
Usually the one that's easiest to work with is the one we want to solve for T, and that way we can eliminate it from one of the other equations.
Right.
But I also like to tell my students that sometimes you're not going to be able to eliminate T from the equation.
Right. And in this section, by and large, the students will be dealing with equations that are situations where you can eliminate the parameter, but we just want them to know that this is not 100% guarantee. I think the one other thing too is maybe, Brittany, you can talk a little bit about the graphs and how it's important for students to know how we draw them.
So the students should always distinguish which direction they're going.
Right.
Are they going clockwise or are they going counterclockwise?
Right, and I think
make sure
kind of like Gabe's example,
it.
right? I mean, we could be going down and to the left or up and to the right. And now this becomes important because, as you said, Gabe, the time element comes into play here as well. I hope these tips have been helpful for you and you find much success with section 10.6.